The motion which I shall have the honor of submitting to the House affects, in my opinion, the very vitals of this Constitution, the great primary sources of the power of the people, whom we represent, and by whose authority only, delegated to us for a time, we are part of the legislative body of this kingdom. The proceedings of the last Parliament in the business of the Middlesex elections gave a just alarm to almost every elector in the nation. The fatal precedents then attempted to be established were considered as a direct attack on the inalienable rights of the people. The most respectable bodies in this kingdom expressed their abhorrence of the measure. They proceeded so far as to petition the Crown for the dissolution of that Parliament, as having been guilty of a flagrant abuse of their trust. Above 60,000 of our fellow subjects carried the complaints of the foot of the throne. A number surely deserving the highest regard from a minister, if his whole attention had not been engrossed by the small number of the 6,000 who returned the majority of members to this house. The people, sir, were in a ferment which has not yet subsided. They made my cause their own, for they saw the powers of government exerted against the Constitution, which was wounded through my sides, and the venom shafts of the wicked administration pointed at the laws and liberties, no less at a hated individual. Their plan was carried on for some years with a spirit of malevolence and rancor, which would have disgraced the very worst, but with a perseverance which would have done honor to the best cause. I do not mean, sir, to go through the variety of persecutions and injuries which that person suffered. I hope with a becoming fortitude. I have forgiven them. All the great powers of the state at one time appeared combined to pour their vengeance on me. Even Imperial Jove pointed the thunderbolts, red with uncommon wrath, at my devoted head. I was scorched, but not consumed. The broad shield of the law protected me. A generous public, and my noble friends, the freeholders of Middlesex, the ever-steady friends of liberty and their country, poured balm into my wounds. They are healed. Scarcely a scar remains. But I deeply feel, the wounds given to the Constitution. They are still bleeding. This house only can heal them. They only can restore the Constitution to its former state of purity, health, and vigor. In the first formation of this government, in the original settlement of our Constitution, the people expressly reserved to themselves a very considerable part of the legislative power, which they consented to share jointly with the King and House of Lords. From the great population of our island, this power could not be exercised personally, and therefore the many were compelled to delegate that power to a few, who thus became the deputies and agents only, or their representatives. It follows directly from the very idea of choice that such choice must be free and uncontrolled, admitting of no restrictions but the law of the land, to which king and lords are equally subject, and what must arise from the nature of the trust. A pure parliament, for instance, cannot be elected a member of the House of Commons because it already forms part of another branch of the same legislative body. A lunatic has a natural incapacity. Other instances might be mentioned, but those two are sufficient. The freedom of election is, then, the common right of the people, their fair and just share of power, and I hold it to be the most glorious inheritance of every subject of this realm. The noblest and I trust the most solid part of that beautiful fabric, the English Constitution.